This is episode 61 of Michael Jackson's Dream Lives On, an exclusive. And this is an interview with the co-founder, editor, and author of the first academic book on Michael Jackson, The Dangerous Philosophies of Michael Jackson, Elizabeth Amisu. She went this weekend to KingVention 2022. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to join her, but enjoyed her images and she kept me informed. So, what is KingVention? Let me first start there. KingVention is the biggest fan community in Europe, and they have yearly events. Every year we go, every year in 2016, Liz and I went there for the Dangerous Philosophies, and we were exhibitors. And they have people who worked with Michael Jackson who talk. They have an exhibition, or at that time that I was there too, they had an exhibition. What was that again, that exhibition?
There was an amazing exhibition. There's a lovely episode, guys, and that episode is really one of my favorite all-time episodes of Dream Lives On, because it has this interview with Mike Smallcombe. It had a lovely interview with a lady called Nicole Laurie, who is late now. She's died. She was an amazing fan from France, who is just one of my first ever students on Michael Jackson studies.
Exactly, an exclusive live from KingVention.
Yeah, next year I'll definitely be there. I've been like organizing it with people. People were like, you got to be there next year properly. You got to be an exhibitor. And I was like, okay, so next year I promise I'll be there. I've got loads of copies of Dangerous Philosophies, and I've got loads of copies of my novel Right Birth. I'll bring some copies of Sacerdos as well. But my main goal was to support the Michael Jackson Book Club this year, which is what I was just there doing. So it was a very different feel this year to 2016. So much has happened, so much time has passed. And I just wanted the focus to be on Michael, and it really was. It just really was about Michael Jackson, and it was just beautiful.
That's great. Yeah. We also will talk a bit about the Dangerous Philosophies because that celebrates its sixth year. Now, a short introduction about Liz. I'm very excited to hear more about this from you. And you met a lot of new people. You now supported the MJ Book Club, and you showed the Dangerous Philosophies, which, by the way, desperately needed that attention too. Who were there, but this stands out because it is only academic book written outside of a university curriculum to gain a PhD, and that is my personal view. But it's printed with an academic publisher, and anyone who writes knows how incredibly difficult it is to get your book seen, read, and accepted to be published with a publisher, let alone an academic publisher. The Dangerous Philosophies is based on 2 years of extensive research and is paired to her studies of Shakespeare, which she did at the time at King's College in London. And it is also a book that is available in the British Library, which tells you how the quality of this book must be. And because Liz is a professional author, her writing is eloquent and so readable that also non-academically trained fans can enjoy what she has to say and what she has written. At the time, I used to say, when she started this project, that she would be the Samuel Taylor Coleridge of Michael Jackson. And for those who don't know him, Coleridge was a poet, philosopher, and literary critic, and his thoughts on Shakespeare were mostly delivered as lectures. So he set the tone for research into Shakespeare, which, after more than 400 years, is still vibrant. And to me, that is what the Dangerous Philosophies also represent, because there's so much in it that can be taken further for research. But you need to read the Dangerous Philosophies to understand what I mean. But Liz, KingVention 2022, your highlights of your weekend?
Yeah, so KingVention is just this amazing, amazing convention that is run by Pez, was kind of brought together by Pez Jacks, who is the author of The Story of History. And if you go to me on Facebook, Elizabeth Amisu, or you go on my Instagram, Eliza Writer1, Eliza Writer and Eliza Writer, they're all both my Instagram, or my Twitter, Eliza Writer1, you can see a video and some pictures of me and Pez. He is the author of The Story of History, and he is also the organizer and artistic director of KingVention. And what he wanted was, he wanted there to be a European convention in London on Michael, and he made it happen. Kevin Dorsey, Bill Bottrell, Big Al Scanlon, and Lavelle Smith Jr., the incomparable Lavelle Smith Jr., to get those amazing speakers. I know at previous conventions, they've had Saida Garrett, they've had other people that are really, you know, amazing. And so for me, a big draw this year was Michael Jackson Book Club, was Pez Jacks and his Story of History. I was so happy. I got a picture of Pez where I was holding Dangerous Philosophies and he was holding The Story of History. And it was just such a lovely community of authors to be in. And obviously I have to talk about one of my favorite all-time authors, Bryce Najjar, the wonderful, amazing, super talented friend of the show, author of Book on the Dance Floor and Let's Make History. I got my very own copy of Book on the Dance Floor finally signed by Bryce. I wanted to buy it directly from him. He wrote a beautiful message in there. He took lots of lovely pictures with me. We had lots of chat, which was really nice. And I was just so proud of Pez and Bryce, because we're not the only authors in the industry. We're not the only authors that are writing about Michael, but we were there and we were supporting one another. And I thought that was really a beautiful thing. It was just a beautiful thing. I remember last time I went to KingVention in 2016, 6 years ago, it was Mike Smallcombe was there. The highlights, apart from the authors, which is one of the biggest draws for me, going to KingVention in 2022, were the people I met. You know, I went on my own, and next year when I go, if it's running, I go as an exhibitor, I'll go on my own as well. I was so happy to like meet people. I met some amazing people. I met a gentleman called Jan, who is a coolest guy ever. I remember standing like by the MJ Book Club table where they had Dangerous Philosophies being raffled off. And you can see this on my TikTok, Eliza Writer1. I put a video on my TikTok. You can see that they were raffling off Dangerous Philosophies for raffle tickets for people who wanted to win the book. There was a strong sense of like, me standing there just kind of being a bit awkward. And then I just turned to this guy that was standing there as well. And he said to me, "This is a really good book. This is a really, really good book." He pointed to it and I went, "I know, I wrote it." And he went, "I know." And, and that was something that happened to me at KingVention a lot. People, I would say like, "Oh, I wrote Dangerous Philosophies," and they would like say, "I know." And I love that. You know, I just thought to myself, Michael Jackson fans are so beautiful. They're so intelligent and so well read. And they, you know, some people, there's a lovely fan that I'm friends with on Facebook, Emma Allen, who I didn't get to meet, but I did get to meet Jenny. And I got to meet Anna, who were from Germany, and they have been longtime followers on Facebook of my work, which is really, really wonderful. And I got to make some new friends. You know, I met someone called Lucy, who is an amazing Michael Jackson fan from Brazil. And I met a lovely, amazing Michael Jackson fan called Helen. But on the first day, we were all just watching the interviews in the theatre. And so it was just an amazing weekend to be immersed in the fan community. There was a lot of emotional aspects to it. There was still a lot of tears, you know, when we, you know, because people did bring up Leaving Neverland and disco on the first night called Burn This Disco Out, all Michael Jackson music, and it was just fantastic. Just watch people dancing to Dangerous, to just groove down to Rock With You, with everyone. It was beautiful. And
Liz,
as anyone that...
Can we go back shortly to what you said about the emotions and how people, because they brought this up, were this the people who were interviewed who brought up Leaving Neverland, and what are their thoughts about this, and how are they standing into this?
They said it was bullshit. It was complete bullshit. It was just bullshit. It was really wrong, and it was an attack at someone who couldn't defend himself anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
It was really bullshit. And I was talking to readers and fans and new people that didn't know about my work. I was handing out these. And if you would like one of these, I will post it to you. FOC, if you're in the UK and in America, as while stocks last. If you'd like one of these postcards, exclusive postcards, and a leaflet. These were designed and made for KingVention. If you'd like one, I will send it out to you. No worries. I will take the payment for that. I found that I was discussing with people and explaining to them that Leaving Neverland has really put a spanner in the works. Like, I had some illness in 2018, which put me out of work, out of commission for a while. And then Leaving Neverland happened. And that was like, when I was ready to do more stuff, that was a major spanner in the works. And I was talking to people about that, because what we really want is a paperback version from Bloomsbury community to get behind that, to support it, and to prove to the publisher that it is a viable option. For a UK publisher, Dangerous Philosophies has sold enough copies to warrant a second edition, a paperback edition. And a new paperback edition is coming out of Michael Jackson and the Blackface Mask. Now, my publisher, ABC Clio, which is Prager, the imprint, has been taken over by Bloomsbury now. So I know that when I market to them the paperback, I have to put a lot of evidence to them that it's a viable option, and really make it something like an offer they can't refuse.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, I'm still focusing on selling hardback copies. The goal is to sell 2,000. It's a very lofty goal. At the moment, we've sold over 500. So 25% of the way there. The academic recognition of Michael is vital. Without textbooks, it can't be taught in universities.
Yeah, it's absolutely vital, and people can read it. And I would like to encourage people to read this and to get onto this, and encourage Bloomsbury to make a pocket version, because if they make a pocket version of Blackface Mask, then no,
it's not a pocket version; it's paperback.
A paperback. That's what I mean. A paperback of the Blackface Mask. Then they should definitely.
That's not Bloomsbury, that's Ashgate.
Oh, okay. Okay. So they have other or different standards then? Different. It's not based on copies sold.
Published Dangerous, 33 1/3, Susan Fast, Dangerous. And they also, I think their parent company published All the Songs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very famous book on Michael called All the Songs, but those aren't academic. 33 1/3 is the closest to an academic book. It uses footnotes, it uses endnotes. It's really, really well researched. It's written by a doctor of musicology.
Yeah.
So the Dangerous 33 1/3 is probably the only book on Bloomsbury's catalogue that would sort of fit into what we want. But I just, you know, my dream of a Michael Jackson conference was really peaked again. You know, my interest in a Michael Jackson conference for academic writing was really peaked again. There were a few symposiums on Michael when he died, a few because he was so popular. But after a few years has passed, and then since Leaving Neverland came out, there's been less interest in Michael for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. About that, I have a question at the end, but I'm very interested in, you asked the people you talked with, like Bill Bartel, you asked him how important he thinks it is that people who write about Michael's music academically talk to people who were in the studio process. And what was his answer to that?
Well, his answer was really, really fascinating. I want to talk a little bit about Bill Bartel. So Bill Bartel is a super, super important person in the world of Michael Jackson. And he's an American record producer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist. He has collaborated with many artists, including Michael, Madonna, Electric Light Orchestra, and Sheryl Crow. He worked for Michael Jackson at his house in Encino between 1983 and 86, recording tracks for Bad. In 88, Bartel co-produced his first records, Aliens Ate My Buick by Thomas Dolby. In 89, Michael Jackson asked him to co-produce, engineer, and write songs for his album Dangerous, co-writing and rapping on the album's biggest hit, Black or White. Bill does the rap on Black or White.
Yeah.
The song spent 7 weeks at #1 on the US Billboard Hit 100 chart in the fall of 1991. So Bill Bartel kind of stepped into the shoes of Quincy Jones, because for 3 albums, Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad, Quincy Jones had been at the helm of Michael Jackson's albums. So Bill Bartel was like the super coolest person I could hope to meet. I know Bill Bartel through Man in the Music. And Man in the Music was written by Joseph Vogel, who did the foreword for Dangerous Philosophies. And I talked to a few people who said, a lovely lady called Kaylee, who told me that she'd read the foreword because it was by Joseph Vogel. And I said, don't worry, that's the best bit, you know, and that's how I feel about Joseph Vogel. So I was really fortunate to talk to Bill. I was really nervous to talk to the special guests, because they knew Michael, and I had to write down what I wanted to say to them, and I kind of read it out from my phone. But I was really happy that the organizers of the event made it so that we had a chance to meet and greet them, even though we didn't get meet and greet tickets. So there's meet and greet tickets were like 230 quid. If you go to KingVention.com, you can read and see how much tickets were. And that was just totally out of my budget. I also paid for leaflets and for postcards, which cost me quite a bit of money as well. As well as buying some new copies of Dangerous Philosophies, which are really expensive. From the publisher, they're just pricey. So I'd spent several £100s on the event already just to be there. So I couldn't justify spending even more on meet and greet tickets. So the fact that I got a meet and greet was really, really exciting. So I was just asked Bill, how he felt, because he talked so much about recording process. He talked about Blood on the Dance Floor, about how he coined the title, but Michael didn't like the song that he wrote. So Michael kind of threw away. He said it's just crap. It's kind of crap, so he didn't want it. And then he was talking about songs like Monkey Business, and he was talking about songs like Streetwalker, about how another part of me felt more like it was bad. It was like a bad album track. And just really beautiful stories from Bill. I thought he was really fantastic. His daughter has a lovely Twitter profile as well. So if you search, I think it's Laura Bartel. I think it's Laura. I'm not 100% sure. They've said this to me, you didn't talk to the people who work with Michael. How can you justify writing a book?
So you wrote the book, but you didn't speak with the people who worked with him.
Yeah, so Bill, Bill Bottrell is like the producer of Dangerous, and I said to Bill, do you feel like left out? And he said, I need to have this book. I didn't know this book existed. I need to get this book, Dangerous Philosophies. And I was like, I really wanted to give him my copy, but I only had one copy with me. And I still had to talk to Kevin Dorsey, Lavelle Smith Jr. and Bill at Big Al. So I was like, so I gave him the literature, and I told him he could get it from my website. Everybody, you can get it from my website. I do have copies. I got Michael's art. I said my area of expertise is Shakespeare. It's early modern England. And then he just loved the cover. He said he thought it had like an Irish thing to it. And I think that might have something to do with the clothing. I'm not sure what the clothing means, but I think the fleur-de-lis might be something to do with Ireland. And he said, no. He said, you're an academic, then you go to the work. And I was, we were talking about Joseph Vogel because Bill talks extensively with Joe about Michael's process when he wrote Man in the Music, the creative life and work of Michael Jackson. And I was so excited. I wish Joseph Vogel could have been there. One of my biggest goals is still to meet Joe and to go to do a Michael Jackson conference with Joseph Vogel there, where we can bring academics together to talk about Michael. And if you haven't got Man in the Music, definitely get it, because that's where I first heard the name Bill Bottrell. And that's when I first learned about what Bill did. And he was just such a charismatic man. I think all the people who come to these events and are special guests are really charismatic. And you can see just from talking to them and just from being with them why Michael loved them so much, because they're so unique and they're so open and they're so welcoming. And they were really generous with their time and with their thoughts. And that was beautiful.
Great, fantastic. And yeah, as you said, so he wanted to buy your book, but you had only one copy with you. That's a shame.
It's a heavy book. It's about 750 grams.
Yeah, okay.
And I was carrying it everywhere I went. There was lots of exhibitions at KingVention. And so it was kind of arranged on the ground floor of the Shaw Theatre next to the Pullman Hotel. So there was a lot of walking around carrying books.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Next year, have a stand. And then you also asked Kevin Dorsey, the vocal director, if he had any opinions on resistance to Michael Jackson academia. And if he thought it was because of a black man or because of other reasons. What was his view on that?
Yeah, Kevin and Lavelle had this really lovely, really warm rapport during KingVention this year. And that was just something amazing to just be to view and to just be part of. And I didn't know Kevin Dorsey that well, but he was the vocal director for Bad, Dangerous, History World Tours, all three of them. That's Kevin there, and that's his signed autograph to me in the KingVention program. There's a strong sense that I loved talking to Kevin because he is a black man, and as a black woman, I almost said black girl there because I still consider myself a girl. As a black woman, I really kind of felt that what he was saying really spoke to me. I felt that what Kevin had a lot to say that was really irrelevant to Blackness and Black culture. And he talked to me so much about Michael's studiousness and how much Michael loved education and how much Michael was educated and how he supported universities. And for me, like it made me very tearful. I think people have been, there was a lot of people crying a lot during KingVention. The guests and the speakers, there was a lot of tears that if Michael was alive, it wouldn't be so hard, you know, because the process of Dangerous Philosophies has been so incredibly hard. You know, the process has been so incredibly hard. And I'm still 6 years after promoting it. I'm still trying to sell those 2,000 copies and get that paperback made. I'm still trying to get people to write about Michael and to send it to the journal and to get him in print. We're still promoting people like Kerry Hennigan, who's writing columns on Michael. And we're still supporting people like wonderful Macedonian authors who are writing about Michael in their faculties of music. But it's been so incredibly difficult. And I know that if Michael was alive, it wouldn't have been this hard, because he would have supported the work. Even things like KingVention, he would have come. I know that, you know, because he came to Killer Thriller the Killer Thriller event. He would have come and he would have, you know, been there for us, and he would have supported us because it's what he cared about. But because he's gone, the people that are in place who are supposed to do the things that Michael wanted aren't doing it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I just wrote with the girl from Macedonia, or she contacts. Yeah, Jasmine. She will contact, but they didn't know about the existence of the journal. And I wrote to her, we started this in 2014.
Loads of people don't know about the journal.
And so the whole scholarly thing about Michael Jackson is, I know for sure, this man had a library of, I had a library of 1,000 books. He had 10,000 books. This man was all about education, reading, learning, studying, researching. I mean, his music is an amalgamation of everything he learned.
And his art, his short films as well.
And his short films as well. And we need to talk about that because there's so much more to say about that. They need recognition. And I'm absolutely sure that he would have loved it and probably would have promoted it for children to go there, for universities to connect, to bring that research out, to educate. And that is the whole purpose. That's why we started it in the first place. So it's amazing that you went there, and yeah, it was above my budget. I couldn't, but it is good. It's really good that it's done, and it's really good that it works. And it would be so good. And I want to know your thoughts about that before we go on with the other speakers. We are very serious about his art and the academic study and research to keep his legacy alive. And do you think an event would help? So, for instance, creating an event for academic MJ fans, scholars who do research.
There just isn't a market for it, you know. If we had 10,000 people on the journal and we have 3,000 people, which is amazing.
No, we
I'm
have
very
4.
grateful to God.
Okay, 4.5.
I'm very grateful to God. But if we had 10,000 people on the journal, if I had sold 2,000 copies of Dangerous Philosophies, if then I would have said that, yeah, there's a market for it. People will come. But as it stands, I just don't see any university affiliation yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if there wasn't affiliation with the university, that research can be done independently and supported by the estate.
Yep.
And it's not been. It's just not been. There's Man in the Music, 2nd edition on paperback, which we're very happy for. That came out in 2017. I'm very, very honoured and happy Was it 2019? It might have been
No,
2019.
that's 2019 that came with
2019, it came out in 2019.
extra interviews, etc. Yeah.
I'm very honoured to have been thanked in that book by Joe, and it is vital work. There's Susan Foss, Dangerous, there's Cheryl Pinder's Conjure Black Identity, and then there's Harriet J. Manning's Michael Jackson, the Blackface Mask.
And there is also the musicology that is from Isabelle Petitjean.
Yeah, we were talking about Isabelle yesterday and the day before. We were talking about Isabelle, and there's the work of Isabelle Petitjean, but there should be, I would say there should be like 70 books on Michael, and there are like 12.
Yeah, but I am always from the positive side. So if you can get a connection now with the University of Macedonia somehow, and we can make affiliates and see if we can.
It just isn't happening. It just isn't happening. Like,
that's a negative thought.
Yeah, it's a negative thought, but it's the truth. It's just not happening. Like the last 6 years, Dangerous Philosophies has had 5 citations. It should have had a lot more than that. And the problem is, Michael is not being engaged with in academia. He was a little because he died, but since then it hasn't been that way. And even authors like Joseph Vogel, who wrote the most amazing books and articles on Michael, aren't writing on Michael anymore.
No, and that's what he said, because I saw him on Twitter. He was live again on Twitter, and I'm grateful for that he's back. But he said it's so nice, and I can imagine that also, because if anyone wrote about Michael, it was Joe. It's so nice to just listen to his music without having to write about him.
I met someone called Lucy, and me and Lucy were discussing Beyonce, we were discussing Lemonade and the Renaissance, which I have, but I don't have a CD of it, and how good Renaissance was, and about, you know, her relevance and stuff like that. And for Lucy, who's the most beautiful fan, she's just so beautiful, she's just a lovely person, Michael's legacy was in jeopardy. And then on the next day, I talked to Helen, who is an amazing fan, just this wonderful person who just came and sat down with me and just had a chat over lunch. And she said his legacy is golden and it's like set. And I said, I'm somewhere between the two of them. So we had an event at KingVention, which was called 2000 Watts. And we had these 3D glasses, and you could go into a special room, and they had 3D Michael. They had, excuse my makeup on there, they had 3D Michael in images all over these massive screens. The word is just amazing. It was really amazing.
That must be emotional, because that is image and that is 3D suddenly. It becomes like as if you can touch someone and he isn't alive, but as if you can touch him. That must be very emotional. Very.
The 2000 Watts exhibition was just really, really, really amazing. And I was in there for a while, and I remember just thinking that I'm somewhere in the middle. On the one side is the red glass.
The red glass, and the other one is the
blue. And the other one is the blue. And I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, on the one hand, there's people that feel that Michael's legacy is in jeopardy and is dying a death. Michael is being lost. Younger generations do not want him and are not interested in him. And on the other side, there is people who believe that Michael is golden and that his legacy will last forever, and he's done the work and he will be renowned for all time.
Yeah, I want to ask you something, Liz, because you say this, but I think that goes into waves. If you look at Shakespeare, for instance, he didn't have all-time high-level research and things. That goes in waves. goes in waves, don't you think?
I think that the differences between Michael and Shakespeare is that Shakespeare was white, you know, and Michael Jackson was black. Shakespeare was English and Michael Jackson was American. Then there's a lot more parallels between them. So they were both popular culture, they were both lay people, like working class people, they were both creative artists that thrived on the stage. So then there's more parallels. Then you can listen to all about Michael Jackson and Shakespeare in our episode MJ7 Shakespeare 400.
Yeah.
Which we'll put in the show notes, which is a amazing episode, just a brilliant episode that we did, which was all about Shakespeare and Michael Jackson and about legacy. But that was a few years ago now. And
yeah, but listen, in between came this horrific piece of which we do not use the title anymore because it has been around for long enough. I am absolutely sure that we can subside this. And I have to admit, that's also because of all my other things I do and I need to do. But I will also produce more again, and from a different perspective, maybe from spirituality and from how this is working within the brain and art and how he was. And I talk a little bit already about that in the small series we do with Carrie and her columns. But I'm sure that if we put more out, maybe even draw more attention towards the journal, also on Twitter, and ask people to share, then
it's just like a drop in the ocean. It's just like a drop in the ocean. Like I met the most amazing influencers at KingVention, and they were like publicizing my work and they were promoting it on their Facebook, on their Twitter, and I was just so happy. And they were doing that work, they were doing that promotional stuff and that marketing, and it's brilliant, but it's just a drop in the ocean. You know, even if I had sold 2,000 copies of Dangerous Philosophies and it was in 2,000 bookshelves and libraries around the world, it's still just a drop in the ocean. And that's something for us to really accept and acknowledge, is that academic work on Michael needs to be accessible. It needs to be publicly accessible for all ages. And at the moment it's not.
Well, that I agree with that, but that's why I always say that specifically your book is so accessible, because it's not only a little part like Dangerous from Susan Fast is very small, is about Dangerous, is very academically written. And that's with you, it's not, it's you can absorb it, you can enjoy it, and simultaneously you can find things and loose ends and other parts that are interesting to write about.
My book leads you to buy other books. I think if you buy Dangerous Philosophies, you're going to buy more books because of the way Dangerous Philosophies is written. But as I'm talking about accessibility is getting hold of Dangerous Philosophies. And it's the same, you know, it's almost the same thing of like getting hold of Dangerous 33 1/3, you know, and
yeah,
getting hold of Man in the Music.
Yeah, but that's those, I mean, then you are, I mean, pure marketing technical, your book is way more expensive than those books. So people are more inclined to buy those books because they are more, in that sense, in the price tag accessible. So
not only is writing books, the book expensive, but researching and producing books like this is very expensive.
Yeah,
and
it is. Yeah,
it needs financial support.
Yeah,
and so that is a big problem as well. Yeah. So
you need a patron. We need a patron, an organization that is willing to be the patron for authors who write about Michael Jackson in an academic way, as academics.
I just don't see that, because people like Marcus Kubota are making documentaries like Sonic Fantasy off their own back.
No. Well, finally, you asked Big L how true it was that Neverland was an extension of Michael himself, because you write extensively about Neverland in your book. And what was his answer?
Well, Big Al, Alan Scanlon, is a former Neverland Ranch amusement park manager. He started out in the amusement ride business as a teenager following a traveling carnival. The plan was to do this for a year or two until he figured out what he really wanted to do. Well, 49 years later, he's still just a big kid playing with amusement rides. His first introduction to Neverland was shortly after Mr. Jackson purchased the ranch and started installing amusement rides in the late 80s. Al was a third-party safety consultant and visited the ranch a couple of times a year to perform safety/maintenance inspections of the amusement rides. He ended up going to work full-time at the ranch a couple of years later in the early 90s. After Neverland closed, he went back to being a safety consultant in the amusement ride industry. His time at Neverland and with Mr. Jackson remains his most treasured memories. Well, Big Al was so great. You can see he signed my program for me here. Big Al was so great. I think, one of my dreams is to go to Neverland. But KingVention managed to create Neverland right there in the Shore Theatre of the Pullman Hotel, by the Pullman Hotel in King's Cross in London. They managed to really recreate it. They had all Neverland memorabilia and iconography all over the rooms. It was beautiful. And Big Al said to me, Neverland really was an extension of Michael. It really, really was. It really was an extension of his desire to help people most of all. And his giving nature. It was a gift. And to be around someone who worked so closely with Michael was a very touching feeling. It was very emotional. I got a strong sense of Michael's absence.
Do you think they feel that too, that absence?
Very, very, very strongly. Very strongly, especially going to an event like KingVention, where everyone had on their Michael Jackson t-shirts and their jumpers. I'm wearing my hoodie for Dream Lives On.
Journal, the Dream Lives On.
Dream Lives On, Dream Lives On hoodie. But I think his absence was really strongly felt. I think in his older age, Michael would have started making more provision for things like this, for his legacy. I think he already did scholarships. He already has the Michael Jackson scholarship.
Okay.
There is already the Michael Jackson scholarship, but Michael did that in his lifetime.
Yeah.
He put money into that in his lifetime. So for now, new things that come up and that are kind of shown to be important is for the fans, And KingVention just showed me what a fan can do. And it reminded me a fan did all this. So it is possible.
A team of fans, because don't forget his partner Sebastian, right? He that's the one I had contact with, but there are a lot of people around it. Yeah.
If you look at the credits, the artistic director and host was Pez Jax. He's the artistic director and host. There's volunteers, there's people who have donated their time and their work, but it's fundamentally fans that have made this a reality. And that is that is really beautiful, you know.
But that's how it works, isn't it? I remember
it's not how it should work.
Well, it's what you told me. If Shakespeare's friend hadn't found his work and put it in a folio, there would never have been. That's what you told me. At a point,
yeah, but
it is someone who puts it together, and yeah.
Yeah, but it was his friends initially who published the first folio, but it's also a sense that we live in the 21st century now, and there is an estate and there is money, and it should go to people who want to do that work, and there should be more recognition of Michael Jackson in academia. And I mean in academic institutions, and the first place to do that is the library.
It's almost appalling that the only thing people can think about is about those allegations and all those rubbish, all that rubbish. And we talked about it so much and so often, how this steers away from what it is all about. Look at what he brought. Look at what he gave. I couldn't be there. I have watched or listened to his music the whole weekend. And it always makes me happy. There is something in it. So yeah, exposure. And I think I would shout out to everyone who's listening and who is a teacher, who is teaching, who is in schools, in libraries, whatever. Think about this.
Yeah.
Because that's where it starts.
Yeah. We have to grow the academic recognition of Michael. And there aren't many places to do that, but thank God there is KingVention.
Anyway, you had a brilliant weekend. Thank you for sharing.
Wow.
Thank you.
It was just glorious.
Yeah, that's clear. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your experience.
And if anybody wants to meet me and talk to me on Michael, we are really open, guys, to Zooms and to just discussions about Michael and his work. Get in touch with us. I will be in the studio with MJ this year in November, so I hope to see you there.
Good. Then thank you all for listening, and keep in touch.
And if you'd like to be on the show, because we've got lots of really exciting people lined up, but we would love to have more guests on the show. So if you'd like to be on the show and talk about an academic topic that you like and that you love about Michael, then please let us know.
Yep, let us know. Okay, thank you all for listening. It's all for love.
It's all for love. Take care of yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.